Hare Krishna, Satvat, Shaurav, Akhil, Abhijit, Mrinali. So happy to see you all, Jagriti, Rupali. Hare Krishna. So before we start our Mangalacharan prayers, while the screen is just coming down to reveal us the nectar of instruction. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Matsamo nasti papatma Naparadhi cha kaschana Parihare pilajjame Kim bhruve purushottama Bhumau skalita padanam Bhumireva avalambanam Tvai jata paradhanam Tvameva sharanam prabho Govinda vallabhe radhe Prarthaye tvamaham sada Tvadiyam iti janathu Govindo mam tvaya saha Adadanas trinam danter Idam yache punah punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Radha Radhita Radhesha Radhika Prana Vallabha Radha Ramana Vande Tvam Radhika Prema Nirjita. Hare Krishna. So we have completed up till verse number 6. Today we'll do 7, 8, and 9. 7, 8, and we'll see where we land. And then we'll have one more class after this, and then we can go for the exam. Before I start, do we have any questions from the previous classes? If not, then we can start with text number. Seven? Yes. No, 6. Did we do the 6? Yes. Perfect. Okay. Text 7. Hare Krishna, Mansi. Very well. So Charuni Mai Prabhu, if you can kindly put up text number 7 on the screen. And I welcome all the devotees that joined online as well. Kamao, Bhumika, Sukaru, is it Sukarupa or Sukomala? Sukomala, yes, thank you. And Malati. So if you can just, text number 7 of Nectar of Instruction. But if you have books, then we can start. Okay, there it is. So kindly repeat after me. Syat Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya Pittopatapta Rasanasya Narochikano Kintvadarādanudinam khalu shaiva jushta Swadvikramad bhavati tadgatamūlahantri Syat Krishna nama charitadi sitapya vidya Pittopatapta rasanasya narochikano Kintvadarādanudinam khalu saiva jushta Swadvikramad bhavati tadgadamūlahantri Rupali Mataji, you can start translation.
Translation. The holy name, character, pastime and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root.
Thank you, Jagriti. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Please do the chapter 1, or paragraph 1 rather.
The holy name of Lord Krishna, His quality, pastimes, and so forth are all of the nature of absolute truth, beauty, and bliss. Naturally, they are very sweet, like sugar candy, which appeals to everyone. Their science, however, is compared to the disease called jaundice, which is caused by bilious secretions. Attacked by jaundice, the tongue of a diseased person cannot palatably relish sugar candy. Rather, a person with jaundice considers something sweet to taste very bitter. Avidya, ignorance, similarly perverts the ability to relish the transcendently palatable name, quality, form and pastimes of Krishna. Despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, his ignorance will be destroyed and his tongue enabled to taste the sweetness of the transcendental nature of Krishna and his paraphernalia. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by the regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness.
Thank you. So, let's do one more paragraph. And then whoever, you can tag the next person, whoever you want to pass the mic. And one more paragraph, please.
When a man in the material world takes more interest in the materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness, he is considered to be in a diseased condition. The normal condition is to remain an eternal servant of the Lord. This healthy condition is lost when the living entity forgets Krishna due to being attracted by the external features of Krishna's Maya energy. The world of Maya is called Durashraya, which means false or bad shelter. One who puts his faith in Durashraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. In the material world, everyone is trying to become happy, and although their material attempts are baffled in every way, due to their nescience, they cannot understand their mistakes. Please try to rectify one mistake. People try to rectify one mistake by making another mistake. This is the way of struggle for existence in the material world. If one in this condition is advised to take to Krishna consciousness and be happy, he does not accept such instructions.
Thank you. So this particular verse, Srila Rupa Goswami talks about the fact that the names of Krishna and the pastimes of Krishna are intensely sweet. In fact, Rupa Goswami, who gave this verse, also gave another famous verse, which starts with Tunde Tandavani, which the verse means is that when the name of Krishna dances on my tongue, then I desire for millions of tongues. And when I hear the name of Krishna, I desire millions of ears. And when the name, it floods my heart when it dances in the courtyard. So there is this beautiful verse that Rupa Goswami gives. But those in the sadhana stage, we do have, because since time immemorial we have been in material world, I have been in the material world. My mind is fully absorbed in matter, and I feel that name of Krishna is like practically a burden on existence. In fact, in the beginning stages, it's like it's too much. It's like, and once the 16 rounds are done, if you are chanting 16 rounds, it becomes the highest source of relief for the day once the rounds are over and you are able to keep the bead bag aside. It's okay. Please understand that's okay. And if it was not the case, because when we chant the names of Krishna and we get this feeling that my rounds are not good and then my utterance is not clear, or I'm just doing multitasking while I'm chanting, we should make a conscious attempt to avoid that. But if we cannot, then we should correct but not beat up ourselves to the point that we become dispirited and discouraged. Because Rupa Goswami says that's the natural characteristics. But in fact, it can be a very, very beautiful thing. You can self-gauge yourself. Nobody needs to tell how advanced you are, except when you are chanting the Maha Mantra. You can know for yourself how much are you attracted to chanting and how much are you not attracted to chanting. How much is chanting a sweetness and oh my God, where did the 2 hours go by? It's done so soon and my 16 rounds are done, I want to continue more. Versus, oh my God, I thought we are done with 8, I'm just only 6 rounds, my God. It's okay, as I said, it's okay. Because in the sadhana stage, Rupa Goswami does mention in the Nectar of Devotion semester that we are going to have after Gita, we are going to discuss that aspect of it. It is that in the sadhana stage, there is no real taste, there is no real spontaneous attraction to Krishna. I am doing it for satisfying the order of my spiritual master. I have taken initiation, or maybe sin will overcome me if I don't chant, and I will fall down and become so fears, a sense of obligation, And maybe my own reputation. Oh my God, this fellow used to chant 16 hours in a row. So, maybe to maintain my reputation. So many other reasons other than genuine attraction for Krishna is the cause for chanting. But when we reach to the spontaneous attraction, then it becomes, there is no need for external impetus. There is no need for rules and regulations for chanting of the Maha Mantra or any devotional activity for that matter. And sometimes it might feel that this gap is unbridgeable, is impassable. And impassable means we cannot pass or overcome the gap. Because it's impassable, it's impossible. But no, the acharyas have given us hope. If the acharyas thought that we were gone cases, if the acharyas thought I was a gone case, never to be rectified, what's the point? I mean, by nature anyway, I will not achieve it. I'm trying something impossible to achieve it. But no, they wrote these books for us so that they give us that hope. Don't worry, it is like, it's going to be like this, but persevere. Utsahan, he gave Utsahan Nischaya Dhairya, and then he gave this one to say, don't be disturbed or don't feel morose when we are unable to get to, our desired state. One last point I wanted to add was that devotional service, many other forms of, in other religions or other places, there is the act of atonement. And we did discuss this a little bit in the first verse of Nectar of Instruction, where you perform certain sinful acts and then you can eradicate it by performing a suitably pious act. Balance it out, sense of repentance. But we discussed that Krishna consciousness actually destroys not only the karmic reactions, but it completely destroys even the slightest desire to commit sinful activity from within the heart. And if my existence in the material world is like a tree, there is a tree which I can see from the top, but what part of the tree you cannot see? Roots, thank you. And they are below the ground. And sometimes the plant looks only this much. But when you try to pull it out, the roots extend almost 4 or 5 times its size into the ground. Yes or yes? So, which means our roots into material existence are so deep-rooted. They're so like strongly entrenched within material existence. When we start doing bhakti, they are destroying at the root, but you cannot see it from the top. It is this, you might think, I'm chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for so many years or serving the temple and doing so many, nothing seems to change. Maybe it's just me, I think like that all the time. But then please understand the roots are, at the root it's being destroyed and you might not be able to see it immediately. Right? So far so good. Any questions, comments before we go on to the next paragraph? Yeah, sure, Ramesh. One last point. My apologies. I forgot to make that point. So in the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada actually recommends that despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness by chanting the holy name of the Lord, chanting the holy name and hearing the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, his ignorance will be destroyed and her tongue enabled to taste the sweetness of transcendental nature of Krishna and his paraphernalia. So there is the careful and with great care. Yeah, with great care and attention. Try your best you can to chant your name. Sit at one place. We should have the right sankalpa. At least the sankalpa shouldn't waver. My rounds happen mainly when I'm cooking or when I'm driving, and that's how I am. Then it's really a problem with you, because you did not even say that I'll have to set aside a time, a place, a separate peaceful environment that I need to chant with great care. Because then our sankalpa is a problem, our intention is a problem. But once you set it right, and if things are not happening immediately, then it's a work in progress, right? Yeah, Ramesh.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One quick question is on, so you said spontaneous attraction to Krishna, right? So, like in Bhakti, how do we know if we are progressing towards, loving Krishna and loving our Guru Maharaj and other devotees? How do we know that?
I did mention that a little bit in this context. Maybe it was just prior to that you came. When you are chanting the names of Krishna, then how much of taste you are getting from chanting? Is it like you're just having such great difficulty in chanting that you are just constantly looking at time when it's over, versus looking at time when it's done and oh my God, the time is past? So internally you can only feel your own taste, one thing. Second thing is, your spiritual master can always help in terms of knowing your advancement as well. Your guru can help. The last point is that I did mention many Bhakti Sastri classes ago that in the conditioned state, the desires, it's impossible to overcome. People just succumb to the desires. But as you take to Krishna consciousness, and when you advance, then you are able to tolerate the desires. They are still there. And you are able to tolerate it. But when you get really advanced, the desires are there, but you are disgusted by it, repulsed by them. And it's mentioned by Yamunacharya's famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita. When we come to Bhagavad Gita, we can discuss that as well. So you can see, the attachment to the matter, how much it is. Am I having the same attachment to the matter that I used to have before? Is it slackened? That's one other advantage. So there are 3 criteria that I gave right now. So maybe that can help. Is that helpful to get answers? Okay. And Srila Prabhupada writes, advancement in spiritual life depends on how detached we are from matter. Not doesn't mean that I'll eat once a week like Dhruva or something like that, or perform such severe austerities that if somebody comes to your home, you say, I'm in the backyard. What are you doing in the backyard? It's summer season. I put 5 fires around and I'm sitting in between the fire. That is, the idea is that matter, when you see matter as an energy of Krishna and not for your own enjoyment. To that extent, we get detachment from matter can mean both, like really literally pushing away the matter, at the same time seeing matter as energy of Krishna and not for me. As Prabhupada used to say that everything for Krishna and nothing for me. So if you are in that perfect stage of that particular vision of a Mahabhagavat like Srila Prabhupada, then we have detached from the matter. So, yeah. Yes, Jagrati.
Hi Krishna Prabhuji,
Hariva.
Dandavat Pranams. I apologize if this is a very naive question, but is it like, what stage would a devotee be if they are, as you said, disgusted by like material desires, but only a few and not all of them?
So here is the thing though, you cannot clearly, because there are innumerable number of desires. The intensity of desires of those are up and down, and they are dynamic and constantly changing. The general rule of thumb is that you are, in the sense, repulsed or disgusted would be, maybe a strong term, but you are, in one, and actually it's a right term, because Prabhupada himself exhibited that in his lectures quite a few times. Usually, if you are attached to lotus feet of Krishna, all the desires, anything that are unrelated to Krishna, you are disgusted with. But then, based on my own past life, based on my own samskaras and tendencies, I might be able to be disgusted by some and attracted by a few. And that means I'm a work in progress. And there are, I need to advance in Krishna consciousness. But congratulations on at least reaching certain stage. Yes or yes? Because if I am able to overcome that particular material desire in this life, which means I am done for eternally. But there are other desires that will assail me and I have to work on, which is why I am a work in progress. Is that helpful? Oh, thank you. And I am sorry if I made you feel that any question can be considered as naive in this class. No, we are all students here, so we are all learning, and no question is naive. Thank you. Other questions? All right. Let's read some more. Yes, Satvat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So I have heard, need to find an exact reference for it, but currently medical science does not support this idea that jaundice can be cured by just taking some mishri or sweet. So how can we understand this? How does this energy still work? The Shastras make a mistake or?
Or maybe the production, the way of producing sugar is so horrible, it doesn't matter what you do. Maybe the rock candy that was produced had some genuine chemical properties from some particular. I don't know. The idea is that we take Shastras as when Rupa Goswami gives such a bold statement, then there must be some Ayurvedic prep that is like a rock candy that will be treated. It is not a generic rock candy or some sugar which is produced in the modern world. It's my pure speculation. But I am not a doctor, nor a medical professional to either refute or support or understand the findings that jaundice can be cured or cannot be cured or even worsened by rock candy. So I'll have to defer it to a doctor or a medical professional for that. Fair enough? Okay, so you're not convinced, so please, yes.
So I missed the part. So basically, how can we? Oh, so you're saying this basically in those times, it would be some specific kind of sugar candy which might be recommended by Ayurveda. So those times it could have been a good cure.
That's my understanding. Right. Because implicit in this verse is either Rupa Goswami is unaware, and he can give this. He usually gives example from real life. Some examples actually in the modern life we cannot see it. For example, a snake bite being cured by a mantra. Prabhupada writes it in quite few places in his books. And modern medical science might say that's just hokum. But there are Vedic mantras. Maybe just because it is lost doesn't mean that it is not correct. So that's my understanding. Again, I am not a medical professional to either refute or support their findings, but I am very doubtful about the modern sugar processing methods. I don't know what all they do there. Because I don't think diabetes was a problem in the previous ages. Now it's like serious problem every which way. Why? I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Satvat. And I think the analogy aside, Srila Rupa Goswami gives, what we take the essence from the spiritual perspective is that keep chanting the names in spite of not feeling taste for it. Don't give up. In the medical professional, if you have jaundice and if you are taking sugar and it's still increasing, then that's a whole other problem you need to deal with. But you get the analogy is used to encourage us. Because you can twist it around, clever people. Oh, Rupa Goswami says that rock candy should be used for treating jaundice, but modern medical professional doesn't support it. So then we twist it around, which means that you shouldn't chant the Maha Mantra to cure the disease. You can see how it can be twisted around. Yeah. Which is completely against whatever the scriptures have mentioned. Right? Okay. All right. Let's continue. We'll probably. How much time do we have? One problem. One thing I really like the fact is that Srila Prabhupada says that people correct one mistake by making. Any examples that you can think of? COVID vaccination? Man, you touched a nerve there. I don't know. There will be so many flames going on right now. But go ahead.
Because of COVID vaccination, there are some heart-related issues, and pregnancy people, they are having some related issues.
Okay. Anyways, if we get into the debate, we'll get into a while, because people can just say that, but how many lives have been saved? Again, but I think one thing I was particularly referring to was people used to go by horses. Like horses are primitive. You should get automobiles and that run on gasoline. And 100 years of gasoline usage, now we have climate change problem. So you solve one problem, then you are making a mistake. Because you can't see it, you think you are technologically advanced. Nobody will admit it, but everybody internally will say life was much simpler before smartphones. Anyways. Cool. Should we continue? One more paragraph? Yes. Sure. Please do the paragraph number 3, which consists the verse Namam Dushkritino.
Hare Krishna. This Krishna consciousness movement is being spread all over the world just to remedy this gross ignorance. People in general are misled by blind leaders. The leaders of human society, the politicians, the philosophers, and scientists, are blind because they are not Krishna conscious, according to Bhagavad Gita 7:15, because they are bereft of all factual knowledge due to their atheistic way of life. They are actually sinful rascals and are the lowest among men.
Namam dushkritano mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamashritah.
Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me.
Thank you. Next paragraph, Satwat, and then we can have some discussion and wrap up this verse.
Such people never surrender to Krishna, and they oppose the endeavor of those who wish to take Krishna's shelter. When such atheists become leaders of society, the entire atmosphere is surcharged with nations. In such a condition, people do not become very enthusiastic to receive this Krishna consciousness movement, just as a diseased person suffering from jaundice does not relish the taste of sugar candy. However, one must know that for jaundice, sugar candy is the only specific medicine. Similarly, in the present confused state of humanity, Krishna consciousness, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the only remedy for setting the world aright. Although Krishna consciousness may not be very palatable for a diseased person, Srila Rupa Goswami nonetheless advises that if one wants to be cured of the material disease, he must take to it with great care and attention. Once one begins his treatment by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because by chanting this holy name of the Lord, a person in the material condition will be relieved from all misconceptions. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Avidya, a misconception about one's spiritual identity, provides the foundation for ahankara, or false ego within the heart.
Thank you. So, any questions? Again, Srila Prabhupada writes, chanting the holy name with great care. And in this age of Kali, it's a practical proof that unless one chants the name of Krishna, the other aspects of Kali Yuga don't lend themselves to having a proper advancement in other forms of yoga. It's next to impossible. And one last point is avidya is ignorance of our true self. The Atma or the Jiva is always connected to Paramatma, or Supreme Person. There is completely a irrevocable and eternal connection with Krishna. But because one is bound in matter, then identifying oneself with the matter, one's knowledge of Krishna and even knowledge of one's own self is completely covered. So you identify yourself with matter. And in the identification of that matter, you take on things that are completely superfluous to you or to me, and I suffer in this world like that. Right? There is a famous verse in the Bhagavatam, Yaya sammohito jivo atmanam trigunatmakam. It's a beautiful verse if you want more reference. More questions, comments? I think if not, then we can do the last paragraph. There is actually a very nice... okay. We can do the last paragraph, although Maya, thank you. Yes, Ramesh, Abhijit, and then we can go to Abhijit. So.
Although Maya may be present, it cannot disturb a devotee once he attains the bhava stage. This is because the devotee can see the real position of Maya. Maya means forgetfulness of Krishna, and forgetful of Krishna and Krishna consciousness stand side by side like light and shadow. If one remains in shadow, he cannot enjoy the facilities offered by light, and if one remains in light, he cannot be disturbed by the darkness of shadow. By taking to Krishna consciousness, one gradually becomes liberated and remains in light. Indeed, he does not even touch the darkness, as confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya 22.31.
Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakar. Jaha Krishna taha nahi Maya radhikar. Krishna Surya Samahai Maya Andhakar. Jaha Krishna taha nahi Maya radhikar.
Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya is compared to darkness. Whenever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of external energy will immediately vanish.
So, avidya or ignorance, which is like darkness that envelops in the heart, the same heart, when it is placed before Krishna, who is like brilliant sunshine, then there is no question of any darkness in the heart. So the process of bhakti actually is placing our ignorant heart in the sunshine of Krishna. And that way you can not only see yourself, but you can also see the sun. When the sun arises, it doesn't not only illuminate your body, but it will show up itself as well. Yes or yes? You can see the sun as well. So similarly, when you see Krishna, then you can see yourself as well. So the process of bhakti includes self-realization. You don't have to extraneously endeavor to do other acts of self-realization. Mansi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have a realization and then I can share the question with you after that. So I was wondering, Prabhu, that because we all are in Krishna consciousness, others are way ahead of me. I can only give you my example that, even though we are in Krishna consciousness, we are still so much entangled here. We have so many desires. You say that, the desires get purified or vanish, but I feel like maybe there are like millions of lifetimes of covering on me and it will take time to do that. So I was just wondering, Prabhuji, the question is, me and my Prabhu were just discussing this morning that all of Srila Prabhupada disciples, they just totally surrendered. Like they were not doing anything but what Prabhupada was saying. So maybe do we need to do the same? Like, I don't know, I don't think it's advisable to just give up our jobs and just completely just surrender to what Guru Maharaj says. I don't know what to do, is what my question is. To reach that stage where we see all our Guru Maharajas, like their dedication and their surrender, I don't think I will ever get that. If I don't get it, how will I improve?
That's such a beautiful and candid question. And probably that's the...
I'm struggling, Prabhuji, and I have no other way to,
But Mansi Mataji, you are aware that you're struggling. As most of us are. One thing, and then Srila Prabhupada himself said that one cannot prematurely give up everything. And because you are a grihastha and a responsible member, you have young children to kind of take care of their needs as well. So this helplessness actually, wherein my heart desires to be free from all these attachments and obligations and responsibilities, to really this one life, just push it whole ahead of it to Krishna, that helplessness actually can give impetus. In sense that a sannyasi might not be able to, who has been never married, might not be able to see the struggles of a family life up close as you are able to see it. That impetus actually can push you forward more. Like Queen Kunti says that, let's look up one of the Queen Kunti's prayers. Queen Kunti is like she's like a very poignant figure in the history of Mahabharata. Her life was a study in just tolerance and enduring hardships, and yet remaining devoted to Krishna. The story was that. Can you please not step there? Please step down. Thank you. The story was that Pandu became little disenchanted with his kingdom. He just retired to the forest and stayed with his wives in the forest. And while he was hunting, he killed a deer that was mating a female deer. And as soon as the arrow shot the deer started crying out in a human voice. And that was actually the sage Kindama. And Kindama had taken on, he and his wife had taken on the forms of deer with the purpose of having children. But he didn't know. And then Pandu was aghast. He was horrified that, Brahmanas were given the highest respect. Instead of respecting him, he actually killed a Brahmana, a sage. He was horrified, aghast. And Kindama said, I will not see the self-control of the sage. He says, I will not curse you or find fault with you for killing me, because you did not know that I was the sage in a deer. It's perfectly understandable. But the fact that you killed any animal when it's mating, it's in the highest stage. When you do that, you will die. And Pandu wanted children. They had 5 children, 3 through Kunti and Madri. Then, somehow or other, by fate or destiny, Pandu got attracted to Madri. And when Pandu died, Kunti said that I am the eldest wife. I will join the pyre. And I'll do the sati with him. And Madri, she said no. Kunti could have taken the easy way out, leaving the 5 boys to Madri. But when Madri insisted that I will join, and because it was, to me, he was attracted, not to you, and let me follow him to the afterworld. Then she was a widow. She was stuck with 5 boys. All of a sudden, her co-wife gone, her husband gone. And now she was here. And now she became dependent. She went to Hastinapur. And then she was completely at the mercy of for a Kshatriya, being at the mercy of others is like a very hard situation to take. But she was there. And then through all the tribulations that she lived through, up to the point that, Karna, he told Karna, you are my lesson. She was a poignant figure, no doubt about it. But then she said, at the end she says, please, O Krishna, let me destroy the attachment to both the Vrishnis and the Pandavas. I really want to just surrender onto you. So even though she was situated in her duties, her aspiration was of the highest order, and Krishna was really pleased by her prayers. So in any station of life we are in, Krishna will always hear our prayers, because if you have the sincerity in your heart. I'm specifically talking about you, and that Krishna will definitely hear your prayers and make adjustments and accordingly. So it's just a matter of time. In fact, these troubles will actually propel us to take more shelter of Krishna. Is that helpful? Yeah. So, while I would wholeheartedly recommend you to give up everything and join, some time is needed for that. All right, we will complete one more verse, and then probably I think we'll try to complete text 8. 9, 10, and 11, probably we can do in the next class. We can take break early. Okay. Text 8. Kindly repeat after me. Tannamarupa charitadi sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasi niyojya Tishtan vraje tadanuragi jananugami Kalam nayedakilamityupadesha saram Tannamarupa charitadi sukirtananu स्मृत्यो क्रमेण रसना मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठन् व्रजे तदनुरागी जनानुगामी कालं नयेदखिलमित्युपदेशसारम् Okay. Translation.
The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja or Golok Vrindavan Dhama and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service.
And I'll join Mansi Mataji. Mataji, you think of just giving up everything? I'll give up everything and go to Vrindavan. It's mentioned here. But I will come to that point. We'll come to discuss that important point. Yes. First paragraph of the purport, please.
Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8.6, it is said,
Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam Tyajatyante kalevaram Tam tamevaiti kaunteya Sada tad bhava bhavitaha.
whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail.
Thank you. And the next paragraph, Mansi Mataji, please.
At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasadam. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tishthan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Vrajbhumi. Vrajbhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. 1.2.294.
Krishnam smaranjanam chasya Preshtam nija samihitam Tat tat katarataschaso Kuryad vasam vraje sada.
A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vraj and always engage in Krishna Smaranam Janam Chasya Preshtham, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. So the first part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about remembering. Our mind is, there is a term in Sanskrit called chitta. Chitta means it can be our senses, mind, intelligence and false ego together. It is conscious. Basically, chitta means it's a sign of the soul which is conscious. But what are you conscious about? In the material conditioned life, one is conscious about matter. When you see something, the eye first sees the object, the mind generates the feelings towards the object. The senses, the intellect and the false ego actually then try to grasp the object. So if, for example, quite few places, quite few times it has happened that you left your belongings somewhere, in the temple, or you went to a friend's party, right? So when you go back, obviously, if you forget your belonging, then you will seriously go back and search. But if you have forgotten your smartphone, you'll go into a panic mode. But so when you see your phone, your eye first sees the phone. Then your mind kind of recognizes that's your phone, and your false ego, that is my phone. And then the intelligence says, oh, thank God, nobody took it, or whatever. You can see how the whole chitta or consciousness is filled with like millions and millions of impressions of our past engagements with matter. I would use the word engagements with matter, which is, whether I consumed it through my tongue, ears, whatever we see, it leaves an impression. And those impressions can come back. In fact, they have to come back, yes or yes. Because if you like something, oh yeah, I remember going there. I feel like going again. You remember that? There is an impression that's already formed. This chitta drags us into different bodies. But that consciousness, when it is moved from matter to Krishna, then it becomes Krishna conscious. And the chitta actually changes. The chitta is not affected by the changes. I just see the mind changing. The mind is attracting and repulsing, but I become distinct from that. Right? All right. So we can, any questions before we, all right. Let's do one more paragraph, and I'll ask somebody who's online if you want to. Is there anybody online who want to do it before we come back to the class?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.295
Seva sadhaka rupena siddharupena chatrahi tadbhavalipsuna karya vrajalokanusarataha.
In the transcendental realm of Vrajadama, one should serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a Siddha Purusha or a spiritually perfect soul.
Thank you. So these are all the concepts that get more familiar when we do Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the first phase is called, so we do the eastern part. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into 51 chapters. And that cover the eastern, so like if you have a quadrant, the x-axis and y-axis, right? Then, or actually I wouldn't use the quadrant, but that's more of inclined x and y, like a cross x. And you can see it's northern, it's western, it's eastern, and it is southern. So for the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bhakti Sastri course, we do the eastern part. In the eastern part, there are 19 chapters. And like the ocean is divided into waves, there are 4 waves in the first part, which is Samanya Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. Those are the 4 waves. And Sadharana Bhakti is general characteristics of devotions. The Sadhana Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami says, has 2 divisions. One is called Vaidhi, or regulative, which is we discussed in the previous verse, which is, jaundice and not getting, that is in the sadhana stage. The sadhana has 2 divisions, which is Vaidhi and Raganuga. And then from Raganuga comes Ragatmika. Okay, Ragatmika Bhakti is when the spontaneous attraction to Krishna is so intense, and I like to serve Krishna in a particular taste or mood, then I go to Vraja and take shelter of an advanced devotee there. Rupa Goswami says, just don't go to Vraja. Go to Vraja and take shelter. So which means at least one should have that level of spiritual advancement before you can seriously enter into Vraja. So by all stretch of imagination, we should go to Vrindavan Dham as many times as possible, take darshan of the Dham, get regenerated, recharged, but come back. Don't stay in the Dham till you are having that adhikar in the Dham. And because, once you hear this, go to Vraja, everybody thinks, now it's time to give up our jobs, pack up everything and go to stay in Vrindavan. It's a nice sankalpa. With sankalpa, there should be adhikar. Please understand. It should be both. Fair enough? Okay. We'll do one more paragraph. And that's what Srila Prabhupada gives. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta actually says, who is actually qualified? Before you want to go, pack your bags, put one-way ticket to Vrindavan, put in resignation letter, put the notice to your landlord or sell your house and then go. There are certain conditions that he talks. Who wants to read the next? Rupali Mataji, yes. Yes. Naveen, hold on. There is a question here, Naveen. So just hold on and then I'll... Thank you.
So it says this method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana and sadhya. I didn't understand how it is the same.
Let's forget. So here is the question I have for you. Do you need to chant the holy name of Krishna in the sadhana stage of Krishna consciousness? Yes or no? Do you need to chant the names of Krishna once you have become liberated and eternally be a companion of the Lord?
Yes.
I'm asking Rupali. Thank you, Naveen, for the answer. I didn't say yes. I didn't say yes to yes. I just said, okay, thank you. Do we need to chant or no? Well, why? Because the holy name of Krishna was the method. So here sadhana means the process for which achieving, and sadhya means the end goal. It's just not a means, but a state. The state of sadhana and state of sadhya. State of sadhya is that you are already in that position, and state of sadhana is that you are practicing Krishna consciousness. So it is mentioned that bhakti is so intense, so beautiful, that it is the activity of the soul, whether is in the conditioned or in the liberated state. In the liberated state, the only distinction is there is no fixed rules. Did gopis actually read Vedas for an hour every day? And did they actually do some japa every day? It was completely spontaneous because their mind, heart, and whole existence was seeped in Krishna. So there was no question of, actually regulation will be a problem for them. So, which is the 31, right? Gopi Gita? 10th canto, 31st chapter. Gopi Gita is which one? All right. Thank you, Charani Mai Prabhu. Let's look up that. Okay. 30. Yeah, the eyelid, control F eyelid. Yeah, this is 31 or 30? 31, right? Gopi Gita? Yeah, control F eyelid. EYELID. Okay, next, please. There is no more? Okay. Control F. Go to that verse. Kindly repeat. Shall we try to do it together? Yeah. Atati yad bhavan ahnikananam Truti yugayate tvama pashatam Kutila kuntalam trimukham chate Jada udikshatam pakshma hridrisham Translation. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish Creator. So their absorption in Krishna was so intense that a batting of an eyelid was a problem. And they blamed Brahma. Why did you even create our eyelids? What was the purpose? The only useless purpose it was to block our vision of Krishna. And we blink our eyelids in so many times a day, we don't even miss whatever is the object we are seeing, yes or yes. They saw this. Ask them to now read 1 hour of Vedas. They will beat you up black and blue. We have found the reason for Vedas. We have found the purpose of Vedas. Now, why would we go back to do Vedas? And what is the regulation of Vedas? So, in the sadhya stage, rules and regulations are like, they become actually hindrances, as I mentioned. If we get time, then we'll sing the entire Gopi Geet, but we'll see. All right. Naveen, please do the next paragraph from the Nectar of Instruction, and we'll stop here. I promise you we'll stop at verse number 8. And next class, we can do 9, 10, and 11.
Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavana and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service.
Thank you. So, what does Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur say? What is the qualification of going to Vrindavan? Or one who should not go to Vrindavan? Yeah, so here it is mentioned, one who is not yet developed in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives, but then in this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try living in Vrindavan, not just jumping. So most of the times it happens that somehow if I do this, then I'll get it. Maybe I don't have any taste. Let me go and stay in Vrindavan permanently. That's the problem. Because our taste not developed here, the effect of the Holy Land is there, but nevertheless our own sadhana is lacking. And it's better to do the sadhana first and then go there. Because then you will go and say, oh my God, I left my job and then I am in Vrindavan, I'm not getting anything here. Okay. More questions, comments? All right. Let's do the last paragraph and then we can. Last, which is Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes, Saurabh. Yes, please.
So on this last paragraph, Prabhu, it says that train his mind and give up all material motives. What should be the indication like this is the time to go to?
Two or three things. One will be an external impetus, as order given by a guru or a superior. You're not ready to go. Internally, the heart is drawn to Vrindavan because at that point of time, you don't feel like doing anything else. And your whole mind is seeped in Krishna that, the pains of, the apparent pains of living in Vrindavan, it's nothing actually. Because there is this famous story of Indra Prabhu, who wanted to apply for Indian citizenship, and then the US embassy said, seriously? Even it's such a tough life. People want to go to US and you are doing reverse. Who is going to take care of you in India? Please remember, you no longer will be US citizen. The US government cannot protect you at all. And if something happens to you, you are stuck at mercy here. You are stuck at the mercy of the people here. Are you sure you want to really do that? He said, Radharani will protect me in Vrindavan. Then you are ready. Right? Because, if something happens, then you get the idea. Then you are ready. So there could be multiple impetuses. There is no one particular impetus. But prematurely giving up is a problem. Just because my job is tough, my family life is tough, I am living in a country that's boring, let me go. All those are external factors that seriously need to be reevaluated. Because if you are bored here, you will be bored in Vrindavan. That's your nature. Because Bhakti Siddhanta is saying that internal purification, it's not happening. Yeah, the place will have its purification, but mind is so strong that it will turn it off. It will just see the negative thing. How many times people go to Vrindavan and they say, oh, it's such an unclean place. This is like, no medical facilities. What is this? I came here. So you can see anyways. More questions? All right. We'll do the last paragraph. Rupali, you want to go? Or is there online who wants to do the last paragraph? I don't know. I can't see the Zoom, so.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can do.
Yes, Mataji, please.
Srila Bhakti Siddhanta.
No, the last paragraph, which is starting Chaitanya Charitamrita advises.
The Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulated devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of the scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulated principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavana. This is called Raganuga Bhakti or spontaneous devotional service can be executed in Santarasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows or the stick or flute in Krishna's hand or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka or Raktaka. In friendship, Sakya Rasa, one can become a friend like Baladeva, Sridhama or Sudama. In Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda. And in Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita or her serving maids, Manjaris like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service.
Thank you. This is a pretty important verse. This verse is really important. That's our aspirational verse. That's our goal verse. That's our, well, Rupa Goswami says this is the essence of everything. All the Upadeshas or instructions which are given in the scripture, this is the essence of it is this, right? So we will stop here. And if the devotees want and only want, then we'll all do the Gopi Geet together. But if not, then we can take a break. All right. Let's do it. Yes, you had a question before? No, I was asking him. Yes, you had a question before?
Dhanvat Pranam. Prabhu, I mean, a lot of times in these purports, you read the phrase neophyte being used. What's the definition of neophyte in this context when Prabhupada uses this definition? Because we all have our own subjective definition of neophyte. And if I were to use Kanishka Adhikari as a reference, where does the neophyte fall?
Neophyte is Kanishta.
Okay.
Yeah. Because because when you introduce a phrase, then you need a definition. And you need a definition. If you don't have the definition, then it's an incomplete or speculative understanding of neophyte. But because Srila Prabhupada used the word neophyte with the Kanishta Adhikari, we can use that here as well. Okay, cool. Ramesh. Please use the mic, because there are...
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So last class you said you will give some tips and tricks for exam. So
exam, thank you. I will. I did mention towards the end of last class as well. So we will have multiple choices. We'll have a couple of essay questions, verses for memorization, fill in the blanks, true or false, matching, and. I also said if you can't memorize verses, then at least write the English of it, you'll get certain marks. I also said about the Ishopanishad, probably I'll tell that in the next class, Ishopanishad. There is, Ishopanishad specifically talks, Upanishads are little different. It's a whole class I can give on Upanishads. Upanishads are little different because they talk of the impersonal aspect of the Lord. That is, and so in the whole of Ishopanishad, the flow is such that from impersonal to personal, means your hands and eyes are everywhere, you are far yet near. All those things talk of the impersonal aspect of the Lord, but whereas it moves towards the personal aspect of the Lord, that's the Ishopanishad flow. And the tips and tricks, I said I might talk a little bit about memorization of verses. That is something I did talk about. Memorization of verses it depends on how easy or difficult it is to memorize verses. For example, if it is really hard, then there is a little extra effort. Maybe writing it on a pen and paper. I said just take the index card and you write the shloka, like we have the shloka here. For example, Jayati Tedikam, you can actually write Gopyuchuhu. And then for Jayati, you can just write what is the word, what's the meaning for that. And then you write word-to-word meaning. You try to paraphrase your own shloka based on the word, and then you actually compare it with the actual translation, see how it's different, and write it down. So you can get absorbed in the verse like that. For some, it's easy to memorize verses. For some, it is tough. So based on how your own personal challenge is, then we can adopt the ways and means. The other thing is to memorize the verse. For some, writing this is too much. Okay, just write an index card, write that verse and stick it onto the fridge or stick it onto your desk or your laptop, any place where you can see it, then you can memorize the verse. Having it in front will help you. And if you need a partner, or your wife or somebody who you can need to, hey, I'm going to tell this verse, can you please correct me? And then you can use that as well. So these are the few aspects of it. I personally wouldn't encourage so much of, okay, I need to learn Sanskrit now and then, good luck. You'll start memorizing the word 12 years later because actually Sanskrit learning will take 12 years. Mansi Mataji. Yes. No, only from that. There is a whole purpose that I give, only from that we will give. Good Lord, I would have never passed my Bhakti Sastri if I there was from only from those. Even amongst those, if you can't memorize, at least have the English in place. But you can memorize it, and it's good to memorize. Okay. Other questions? Online? Is anybody typing in the chat? Is anybody needs to unmute and speak up? Any questions? Okay. Yes. Mate.
Prabhu, in the last paragraph it is said that when one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. So I'm not getting this. How spontaneously, what does it mean, spontaneously serving the lotus feet of Krishna without following regulative principles?
So, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we'll come to Sadhana Bhakti. It's a chapter, starting from 2nd chapter of Nectar of Devotion to 16th chapter. About 15 chapters purely on Sadhana Bhakti. So Sadhana Bhakti has two divisions, which is Vaidhi and which is called Raganuga. The whole idea is that so for example, I'll tell you one thing. A musician initially starts learning the ragas. Does that beginner have a lot of attachment to learning? No, either the student is forced by the parents or by somebody. Daily they do the practice. But after a stage, it becomes, when they have to talk or when they have to give a performance, it becomes spontaneous. They don't need anything. Same way bhakti, that initially we are just following the regulative principles. I mean, think about it. Does it happen any time that we said, yeah, I so much will love to chant 24 hours today. Just no sleeping, no eating. And it has happened. In fact, Maharaj Parikshit's heard for 7 days and 7 nights, and no drink, no eat, no sleep. It happened. And at the end, the 10th canto, when people are kind of too much, he says, no, keep on telling me, because it's satiating, it's nectarian. I'm completely satiated. So, in the Raganuga stage, the rules and regulations actually don't matter, because the purpose of rules and regulations, which is attachment to Krishna, has been achieved. Just like an expert musician, I mean, right now in this material, it's a wrong example. Even the expert musicians need to practice, but in the stage of bhakti, it just becomes spontaneous. And rules and regulations will be like a waste of time, actually, because they are completely absorbed in doing that. The whole purpose is, in the sadhana stage, at least some portion of my life, I will focus on Krishna. Because my mind is materially focused here, let me pull that mind, put some time in Krishna, and then it's a constant practice of pulling it and putting it, constant pulling. But when my mind is completely absorbed in Krishna, then there is a question of effort. There is a question of a rule to be followed. When my whole mind and heart and everything is seeped in Krishna. Is that helpful? Because gopis, it's like 24 hours they were absorbed in Krishna. 24 hours. What's the point in rules and regulations? All right. We'll just quickly do, and then we can... Is that okay? Should we do Gopi Gita or no? All right. And Charunimai Prabhu will just... In 1 second, he will put it up. There we go. He made my words come true. Go Pyuchuhu. We'll all sing together. We'll go fast. And also, go slow. Jayati te dhikam janmana vraja shrayata indira Shashvadatrahi Daitadveshnatam Dikshutavakas Tvaidritasavas Tvam Vichinvate Sharadudasaye Sadhu Sarasi Jodaro Shri Moshadrisha Suratanathate Shulkadasika Varadanignato Neha Kinvada Vishadalapyaya Vyalarakshasa Varshamaruta Vaidyutanala Vishamayatmaja Vishvatobhaya Vrishabhate Vayam Rakshitamuhu Nakhalu Gopika Nandano Bhavan Akhila Dehinam Antaratmadre Vikhanasarthito Vishwaguptaye Sakhaudevan Satvatam Kule Virachita Bhayam Vrishnidhuryate Charanamiyusham Samsmriti करसरोरुहं कान्तकामदं शिरसि देहिना श्रीकराग्रहं व्रजजनार्तिहं वीरयोषितां निजजनास्मया ध्वंसनास्मिता भज सखे भवान् किङ्करीस्मनो जलरुहाननं चारुदर्शया प्रणतदेहिनां पापकर्षणं तृणचरानुगं श्रीनिकेतनं फणिफणार्पितं ते पदाम्बुजं कृणुकुचेषु न कृन्दिहृच्छयं मधुरया गिरा वल्गुवाक्यया बुधमनोज्ञया पुष्करे क्षणा विधिकरीरिमा वीरमुह्यते अधरसिधुना अप्याययस्वना तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलां श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना प्रहसितं प्रिया प्रेमवीक्षणं विहरणं च ते ध्यानमङ्गलं रहसि संविदो या हृदि स्पृशा कुहकनो मना क्षोभयन्ति छलसि यद्व्रजात् चारयन् पशून् नलिनसुन्दरं नाथ ते पदं शिलतृणाङ्कुरै सीदतीति नः कलिलतां मना कान्तगच्छति दिनपरीक्षये नीलकुण्ठले वनरुहाननं बिभ्रदावृतं घनरजस्वलं दर्शयन् मुहुर्मनसि नः स्मरं वीरयच्छसि प्रणतकामदं पद्मजार्चितं धरणिमण्डनं ध्येयमापदि चरणपङ्कजं शन्तमं च ते रमणनहस्तनेषु अर्पयादिहं सुरतवर्धनं शोकनाशनं स्वरितवेणुना Shushtu-chumbitam Itararagaves Maranam Nrinam Vitaraviranas Te dharamritam Atati yad bhavan Ahnikananam Truti yugayate Tvamapashyatam Kutilakuntalam Shrimukham chate Jada udikshatam Pakshmakridrisham Patisutanvaya Bhratrubhandhavan Ativilangyate Yentyachyutagata Gatividastavo Gita Mohita Kitavayoshita Kastya Jinnishi Rahasi Samvidam Hrichayodayam Prahasitananam Prema Vikshanam Brihaduraha Shriyo Vikshadhamate Muhurati Spriha Muhyate Mana Vrajavanaukasam Vyaktirangyate Vrijinahantryalam Vishwamangalam Tyajamanachana Tvatsprihatmanam Svajana hridrujam Yannishudhanam Yatte sujata charanam buruham staneshu Vitahashanai priyadadi mahikarkasheshu Tenatavim atasi tadvyatatena kim svet Kurpadibhir brahmatidhir bhavadayusham naha. Thank you for coming for the Bhakti Sastri class. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time for the last class. We will spend extra time if needed, and then we can discuss. Is that okay? I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarobhyascha.